it's Lisa Unger.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Alsace. We are here at SIBA, the Southern Independent Booksellers Association Conference in Tampa. I saw on my my feed last week, or was it yesterday or last month? Who knows at this point? Someone said Lisa Unger is all over town, and here I am. Last week it was St. Pete, and now it's Tampa, and here we are again. And I am pre-signing copies of Under My Skin for my my breakfast appearance tomorrow at this conference. So, hi, thanks for joining in. I can't see your comments today, but Jeff and Meredith are going to be checking to see if anybody has anything to say. Make sure you engage with us today, even if it's later. If you're not watching this live, make sure you send me your hearts, your smiley faces, your heart eyes, your thumbs up, and also ask questions and all that, because today I'm going to be giving away copies of Under My Skin. So if you tune in, chime in, then you will be entered to win a copy of my book that releases on October 2nd.
A little over 2 weeks.
A little over 2 weeks, but we're not counting down, or are we?
Well, the booksellers are counting down because we're so excited about this, Lisa.
Yay! Thank you, Alsace.
I'm Alsace with Tombolo Books, and SIBA is an educational session for booksellers.
Oh, okay.
So we go to educational classes, and then we also meet with authors and meet with publishers to learn about all the new books coming out. But I was at a session yesterday
I was going to ask you, what was your session yesterday about?
It was about pre-orders. And
pre-orders are like so important.
They are so important.
They're just really important. I know that probably readers don't maybe understand why, but it just generates a lot of excitement for publishers, for authors, for booksellers, and it's just a nice thing to do. So if you're going to read something and you know you're going to read it, pre-ordering is like one of the nicest things you can do.
It is, and it helps the small independent bookseller know how many volumes of books to order in, how to stage out our orders. So it's very helpful, and you can pre-order Lisa's book on our website, tombolobooks.com. This is our bookmark.
And we'll put a link up too. You should chime in afterwards and put a link up for anyone who.
So you can also on our website, and probably with most of my peers, bookstores, you can ask for the book to be inscribed right on that order form.
Absolutely.
And
That's right.
Lisa is going to inscribe books with us. Then we will ship them out, or we will do our downtown delivery that we do in St. Pete.
Right, which means I will sign, I will personalize, and like all of that good stuff.
Yes.
So you can just send your note.
Personally for you. So, Lisa, I learned something, I think, about you when I was reading this book.
Oh, that always makes me nervous.
Which I'm excited to ask you about, which is, did you grow up listening to The Cure, Joy Division, and The Smiths? Like one of your characters?
Of course.
I didn't know this,
didn't
but
everybody?
I feel closer to you now.
Wasn't everybody like a goth teen? Like, wasn't...
You and I were.
Okay, we were. We definitely were. Yeah, and actually, not to get off topic, but, you know, we've been... my daughter Ocean, who's learning to play guitar, is like completely like being raised on 80s alternative.
Oh, nice.
And we're both totally obsessed with, completely obsessed with David Bowie. Like that's So was that you? That was your
that was me.
Your life.
So I was happy to learn that about you. But what I want to, there's a couple things I want to say about Under My Skin.
Okay.
One is I just love your themes in your books, and in this one, the liminal states, which is a term that I learned in college. And I know that you're very interested in these in-between states, between starting to doze off and then being totally asleep. There's this period called hypnagogia.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you tell me how you learned about liminal states initially?
Yeah. So I had this like sort of quote kicking around my head for, I don't know, a long time, months, years, and there are a lot of Jungian themes that run through my work, and this book is no different. And the thought or the vibe, the philosophy is between the dreams of day and night, there is not so great a difference, right? So, it's kind of a short sentence. It sounds very simple, but between the dreams of day and night. so, Carl Jung really did not think that there was that much difference between your waking life and your dreaming life. And so in talking about this and in thinking about it, and like, usually I have like some kind of obsession that I'm researching, on and off for like a period of years. And so this was something that had me thinking about sleep, consciousness, dreams, the brain, all, the spirit, like all this mingling of all these different things that, which is like sort of part of my belief system. I think it's all one big net of light. Anyway, so I started, I read about hypnagogia and was struck by like what an esoteric term it seems to be, but like how common it is. So it's like that moment, it's the threshold moment between being asleep and being awake. And it's where we have those dreams where we jerk awake, or where something jumps out at us from the dark. And it just struck me as such like an interesting thing, because I'm always like I'm always very interested in the edges of perception, like what, like how quickly our ideas about, what's really happening and what isn't happening, how fragile they are, and how they shift and change. So that was like sort of my journey into that. And also just kind of the idea of sleep. In my research, I discovered that we sleep approximately 229,000 hours of our lives. That's a third of our lives.
That we spend in that state.
Yeah, that we spend in that state. And so it's more time than we spend eating or sleeping or, even watching, cat videos on Facebook. And so we're completely convinced that, that what we're experiencing in our waking life is more real than what we're experiencing in our dream life. So, I think there's some questions about that, lots of them.
We have some comments.
Oh, Meredith says we have some comments, please.
So, Lisa K gave you a little wave, and she also pointed out that reviews, in addition to pre-orders, is very important.
Oh, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yes, of course.
And then we've got a hi from Susan Gray.
Hi, Susan Gray.
Jean Rose, love your book.
Oh, thank you.
And then Becky Casper Shimley gives you a heart.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice when people interact. I know there's a lot of competition for, I know my husband's trying to take a picture of us right now. And you know why he's trying to do that? Because that thumbnail that the video always ends with, it's without fail the most hideous possible picture that could ever be of you. Like, that is just like your mouth is open, your arms are in the air. So
Speaking of pictures,
okay. Oh, right.
This is a big role in the book as well.
Photography.
Digital photography versus traditional old school photography, and also the sense of reality. There was a scene towards the beginning that I loved where she talks about the moment of waiting with the camera, watching through the lens, and waiting for the right moment when the person she's about to photograph drops their act, and that second is when they're the real
see
self.
what's under the skin.
Under the skin.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
Thank you. It's another one of my obsessions. This, I mean, because as a culture, I think we're obsessed with images now more than ever before. I mean, if you think back to your own childhood, like even as recent as our childhoods were, I mean, there really aren't that many pictures. Conversely, Ocean, my daughter who's 12, I mean, there's virtually there's not like an undocumented moment of her life. Like, there's literally not 1 second of her life that's not captured on film somewhere. And it's an interesting doorway of perception, like how we curate our existence on social media, how we sort of narrate our lives, our pasts through photographs, how we arrange them. And so and so much of it is, I mean, it's kind of an ongoing obsession for me, I have to say. I'm not quite finished with it. I'm still making observations, but to be honest, I think it's a little bit strange how when you go out in public now, most people are just staring at their phone. And, everybody's the most connectedness that you see with people and
It's
agrees.
through this device.
It's through the device, and then when everybody gets together with the phone to take a selfie.
Yeah.
And it's just like a constant, it's a constant evolution in how we're perceiving ourselves and perceiving our lives. So it's a big part of Under My Skin.
Yes.
And it's a big part of how Poppy, who's, kind of losing her grip, poor Poppy, she's losing her grip on reality. It's part of how she's keeping track of reality, and she becomes like sort of dependent on the phone. And when the phone, runs out of charge, then she all of a sudden, her lifeline. I mean, it's a couple times.
To reality.
Yeah, it's referred to several times in the book as a lifeline. Jack refers to it as a tether. When did we give up our freedom? He wanted to know. And, so there's a lot of questions to be asked about photography and existence, perception.
Got another hi from Renee.
Hi, Renee.
One of the moments in the book was so powerful between one of the underpinning themes is of sisterhood and friendship. And there's a moment between she and her best friend, a little bit of a nasty exchange through text message, and then this immediate apology, and it just punched me in the gut because I thought of my sister, who is one of the only people I would say or hear something quite so cutting from, and then have an immediate, oh my gosh, change of heart, flip.
Right.
I love you so much. But you just captured it so well, that friendship between those two women.
I have a lot of powerful female relationships in my life. Like, I don't have a sister. I have a brother. He's 4 years younger. So our relationship, I think, in a lot of ways is easier than like a sister relationship is. I mean, we're very different in a lot of ways, and so it allows us to be, I think, closer. But I have always had, like, sort of, throughout my life, very strong female relationships, like very powerful ones. And so, I mean, I understand that, like that the underpinning of the relationship is love. So even if you're mad, in a given moment, or you're like, you're not especially approving or pleased with what your female friend has done, and you're like free to go, hey, you need to pull your act together, because this is not going to work out for you. And you can have those moments with your true friends, and then it's like, but the energy underneath it is love. The energy underneath it is never anger, hatred, jealousy. 5 minutes. Well, we can go as long as we want, but the Facebook gods say that 18 minutes is the best length of time.
We've done our research.
We have. We've done lots of research.
Real quick, microsleep is a term I've never heard before.
Oh, yeah.
This is a real thing?
And it is a real thing, and actually I'm experiencing it quite a bit lately.
Right now.
So this is the state where when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Right. So sleep deprivation, another big factor in Under My Skin. Like, sleep deprivation is like, I mean, think about it when you just had like one bad night.
Yeah.
Right. Like, think about how diminished you are the next day. And then if you're 2 or 3 days into just like not sleeping, then you might even start to hallucinate a little bit. Like,
this happens at book conferences.
Yes, it does. Well, this is exactly why. So, like, after BoucherCon, my brain is like not fully recovered. So what your brain does is it takes these little microsleeps. It like shuts down. Supposedly, it shuts down small sections of your brain that you're ostensibly not using at the time.
Wow.
And that's why, that's why some people say that if you're driving when you're sleep deprived, that you're almost impaired as you are when you've been drinking.
Oh my
It's almost as dangerous.
Wow.
It's almost as dangerous to drive sleep deprived than it is to drive intoxicated.
Yeah.
So
You're on like this autopilot.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're on autopilot.
A really good
Right, a really good one.
And Poppy's name Poppy.
Yeah, I know. So
do you want to talk about that?
I will talk about it a little bit. I'll talk about, it will allow me to talk about character. So a long time ago, I stopped thinking about characters as people that I create and started thinking about them as people that I meet. Right? Because that's kind of, even though that's not the truth, that's my experience of it. Like, every character is kind of an amalgamation of my you know, my imagination, my observations, my, you know, overheard conversations, experiences that are like everything in fiction, right?
Yeah.
It's like the lie that tells the truth. And so, but most of the time, like my characters come with their name. So the name Poppy was just kicking around in my head. So like it was just her when she came with her name. But, you know, as often happens, like, you know, like these names will turn up in my life later. So like the person that sits down to write the book is not the person that gets up to, you know, like pick up my daughter from school. Like it's not the same brain.
Sure.
So we actually have a friend, and her daughter's name is Poppy, and I had to recently just kind of get in touch and say, hey. And I've had to do this before because it's happened.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple times. Like, your daughter's name is in this book. And luckily, she was like, yay! Yeah. She's like super excited. So, I could only imagine that was like part of the process. That it kind of like certain names like sort of sink into your, you know, they sink into your subconscious and they kind of turn up and they feel like, you know, like you almost like, you know, manifest this person with their own name. So that's kind of how it works for me. But also, you know, it has another layer too, as the poppy flower is, you know, sort of the base for morphine and opioids and, you know, all of that dangerous stuff. So
Got a few more comments for you.
okay.
So Susan Gray and Cheryl Tischler are both extremely excited to read this book.
Thank you.
And Susan says this talk is making her want to read it even more.
Well, hey, that is great to hear. That's such good feedback. Thank you.
Miss Hank Philip Urian wants to know how you can sign and talk.
Okay, so let's talk. Let's just take 2 seconds to talk about Hank for a second, because so Hank, if you haven't read her, you have to read her like very soon, because she's amazing, and she's also got so many other talents. She's like a news broadcaster, and she's also an auctioneer, right, Hank?
Oh.
She is a killer auctioneer. I hope this does not get you more jobs at charity auctions. I apologize if it does. But we hosted the charity auctions at BoucherCon, and she was actually like my guru. She got me through, and her just her presence of being this amazing auctioneer was awesome. But it pales, her talents as auctioneer pales in comparison to her talent as an author. So if you haven't read Hank Philip Ryan's books, you need to do that.
I'm writing it down right
Also
now.
got Jen Contreras really wants a signed copy, so we'll direct her to Tombolo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can get that for you.
Perfect.
And Hank points out you raised $20,000 for the Dolly Parton Literary Program.
We did.
that's
We
wonderful.
did. We raised $20,000 for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and that was thanks in large part to Karen Slaughter and Lee Child, who got into a heated battle over a character name in Ian Rankin's book. And so we parlayed that into a big score for the Imagination Library, which was a very, very cool. It's a very cool program.
It is.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. She does a
She
lot
really
of work
is.
for literacy.
She really is. Yeah, well, one of the things Karen pointed out during another talk that we did for librarians is that it's cheaper to put a book in the hands of a child than it is to support him in the system for the rest of his life, and that there's a special development to the brain that exists when a child reads and is read to early in life. So, the Dolly Imagination Library, like that is like sort of the underlying premise of that whole organization. Is like just getting books into the hands of kids that might for whom they may never have that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful mission.
It is.
Well, I think we're going to sign off now, but I want to thank you so much for inviting me to do this with you.
Thank
I'd
you
love to help authors get their books out there.
Well, thank you, and you do an amazing job. And Tombolo
Thank
Books
you.
is like just an amazing shop. I mean, do you want to just talk about it really quickly? Just really a little bit about.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm Tombolo Books. I'm in Alsace, Walentine. I moved to St. Petersburg, Florida from Asheville, North Carolina, where I managed Malaprops bookstore. And we are currently operating in pop-up form, so we do author events at various locations around St. Pete. And this is all in an effort to get the word out about our store before we open our full-scale actual brick and mortar in downtown St. Pete. So
that's going to be a big party when you
coming.
do it.
It's going to be a big party. You'll be invited.
I certainly hope so. We'll do a Facebook Live.
Yes, we'll do another one then. But we'll be delivering your books next in a couple weeks. Don't want to stress you out, but real soon, and so excited.
Oh yeah, and we're going to do something. We're going to try to get me to
do one of the deliveries.
Yeah,
yes.
to do one of the
maybe
deliveries.
A little surprise delivery.
If you order my book and from Alsace, you might get a visit from me.
Perhaps.
when you get it. So that's pretty cool. So Under My Skin, is it showing up right side up this time? Can you see the because this is the first time I've actually been able to do it. So on sale October 2nd. Pre-order.
Pre-sale right now.
Absolutely, and hope you love it. And
you will.
Thanks again for tuning in, chiming in. Remember, we're giving copies away, so even if you're watching this later, you can continue to just comment and like and do all that, and I'll keep it up for a couple days, and there'll be more winners, over the next day or two. So thanks for tuning in. Happy reading.